Professor Nelson, and the course I teach in the spring semester is called Brain Behavior and Information Processing. It's MCB 419.
Can you give a brief overview of what is covered in your course?
The course is an introduction to neural processing from an information processing perspective. We trace the evolution of intelligence, starting with single-cell bacteria, and progressively work up sort of the evolutionary trajectory to animals with nervous systems, and see how at each stage the structure of the nervous system solves particular problems that the animal has to deal with.
What kind of background knowledge does a student need to take this course?
The main thing that helps is having previous computer programming experience. We do weekly homework assignments that involve writing little computer programs where virtual creatures move around on the screen and do interesting things, but it helps to have programmed before in some language. Otherwise, just basic introduction to basic biology, physics helps, and computer programming.
How do topics covered in your course apply to current research, medical, and scientific advancements?
So the course is looking at the neural basis of animal behavior. So it falls under a category of neuroscience called neuroethology, which is about the neural basis of behavior. So it makes contact with work in that field, current research, where researchers are trying to understand how brains control behavior. This particular course has an emphasis on the computational components, which there's a field called computational neuroethology, and we sort of fit into that niche. And basically the computer and computer modeling is becoming increasingly important, as not just in neuroscience but in all fields of biology, as we collect more data and have to synthesize information at more levels of analysis. Knowing how to use computers to build models and test our understanding is really important. So the course is one of the few that you can take on this campus that gives you that experience.
What other classes in MCB go well with the content you are teaching?
A good course is MCB 314, Introduction to Neurobiology, which would be a great course to have taken previously, or it can work either way. You can take 419 and then get inspired and take 314 later, as well as other neuro courses.
What should a student do if he or she is having trouble with your course?
Come talk to me, and we usually have special additional sessions at the beginning of the class for students that are struggling a little bit with the programming. If they haven't done that before, we try and get them launched successfully.
Do you work for a laboratory? If so, how does a student go about conducting research for credit?
I do have a laboratory, and I do have students do 290 research in my lab sometimes. The work that I do in the lab is very similar to the work that's covered in MCB 419, in that it involves both understanding basic neural mechanisms and building computer models of how those mechanisms contribute to behavior.
What is one thing a student going into your class should know about you?
I don't know. I come from a physics background, and in my course I try and attract students from a variety of different backgrounds. So I'm very open to having students from biology, math, computer science, engineering, and so it's a very diverse, it makes for an interesting mix.